Hello, everyone, and welcome to Starfield Pulse Episode 3. I'm your host, Rob, from Rob Unwraps. Today is July 10th, Monday, 2023. We've got a great show, I hope, lined up for you this evening. We're going to run down the news of the week from the last few days. It's a little bit longer than just a regular week because, as you know, last week was a holiday here in the U.S., so that conflicted with when we recorded the previous episode, so we've had a little bit longer to have some news break between now and last time. Additionally, we're going to have two segments. One, not something that came up entirely on my own. I've had some people talk a little bit about this, but I want to explore the possibility of one way we're going to actually see Starfield. And then we're actually going to dive into the leaks that we saw, I want to say like last Friday at this point. I did have a video on that's up on my channel, going through those leaks, but I had a few more insights on it since then. It's worth taking a look at and going over and just kind of talk about some of the nonsense that's being spewed in the community by other people based on seeing these leaks. Like, it's kind of funny. But first, there's a guy on Reddit, right? Gokamo. I think that's how you say his name. It's Gokamo. And I'll put the link to this document in the show notes. So if you want to go ahead and take a look at it, which I suggest you do, it's very impressive what this guy's done, the amount of effort he's put into it. It's a fantastic, and it's quite mind-boggling, to be honest with you. He has over 1,000-page document on Starfield. For those of you that are actually listening as opposed to watching, I do apologize if this doesn't translate very well, but I'm going to show this really quick, and I will definitely do my best to explain what we're seeing for anybody that's out there taking a look at this. So this is an attempted complete Starfield compendium by Gokamo. God help me. And as of right now, there's about 43 people looking at this online. He starts off with a table of contents, goes down through here, and as you can see, he's at like 1,071 pages. This is like a novel. The guy has written a book on Starfield, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling. So he's really done a great job of taking a look at things critically, comparing them. This isn't just a very superficial with the amount of pages he's done alone. You would think that there's some depth and breadth to this, and there really is. It's not like he's just superficially scraping the surface on these. We take a pretty good look at the original ship that we saw in the Starfield teaser that jetted off, the opening in there. Is that actually a library inside there that we're going to take a look at? To be confirmed, right? But he has just some really interesting takes on different things, going back to interviews that Todd did in 2018. So this isn't something that they just started working on. This has been something that's in the works for a really long time. They spent a lot of time on this. And it looks fantastic. So I do absolutely recommend that, unless you're concerned about spoilers, there might be some in there, but if not, I would definitely go take a look at it. This guy, he deserves to have all the attention for how hard he has worked on this. Next up, I saw some interesting alerts that the Xbox Series X was being sold bundled with Starfield. Turns out that's probably not the case here in the States. It could be elsewhere. I'm not certain, but I will tell you that currently right now on Amazon, the Xbox Series X is sold out. So we're seeing Starfield pushing demand, which, I guess we kind of should have suspected would happen, right? That Starfield would push demand for Xboxes. And it really seems like that's happening because you can't buy an Xbox Series X on Amazon right now. You can get a Series S, but you can't get a Series X. Another little rumor that was floating around over the course of last week, which got kind of debunked, was Tom Cruise hates Starfield. So what happened was a website, Fandom Wire, reported that Tom Cruise got into a fight with studio executives and was originally attached to Starfield to kind of put some star power to the field, right? And something happened. They had a little disagreement, and then he backed out of the project. Well, it turns out that this whole thing was fake. It was somebody reported on what was essentially another website's April Fool's Day joke. So instead of, reporting on something factual, they reported on an April Fool's Day joke because they didn't understand that it was an April's Fool's Day joke. Is it April's Fool? April Fool's? It's April Fool's. An April Fool's Day joke. So Tom Cruise was never attached to Starfield. If you see that headline, just roll right over it because it's not worth giving your attention to. Something else that did get leaked, however, and is in fact going to be true, is that AMD will be bundling Starfield with their new Ryzen CPUs and GPUs as well. Starting on July 11th, you should start to see these bundles, which is tomorrow if you're watching this live. And if you're listening to this on one of your favorite podcast services, Apple, Spotify, hopefully those are your favorite podcast services because that's currently where the podcast is at. If you're listening on one of those services, this should be available right now. So Newegg and some of their promotional materials let it slip last week that Starfield would be bundled with their Ryzen series of CPUs. Well, it turns out that we're going to see that bundled with the GPUs as well. So the bundle is divided into two tiers, the standard edition and the premium edition, which offers the 5-day early access. The premium bundle is available with all Ryzen 9 7000 CPUs and either the Radeon RX 7900 or the Radeon RX 6700 series. On the other hand, the standard edition is bundled with the Ryzen 7 and Ryzen 5 7000 series processors, as well as the Radeon 6600 and 7500 models. So there you go. If you do not have Starfield yet and you're planning on doing some upgrades to your PC, you might want to go ahead and hold off and purchase yourself an AMD processor or GPU and get Starfield bundled in there with that. I personally do have an AMD CPU. After years of saying I would never do an AMD build, I did one about 2 years ago now, mostly because of all the content creation I do and the recording that is required. So I find that it does a really good job of doing my video processing. Some people in the community have taken to Reddit to start to talk about their retirement or their time off plans when Starfield is released. And, some people are just taking it potentially a little too far. Regardless, senior citizen gamers celebrate their retirements because they can play Starfield all day. Thank you, Gaming Bible. And this kind of started a trend, right? So somebody posted this on Reddit, and now there's a bunch of copycats like, hey, I retire September 2nd. Guess what I'm doing? Congrats on your retirement. Enjoy the game. I hope you have fun. And I hope you live a long and happy, healthy retirement with Starfield. On a more serious note, though, IGN recently put out an article about accessibility, and potentially Starfield's lack of accessibility information has disabled gamers worried. So it starts off, Colo Jones is eagerly awaiting the release of Starfield, Bethesda's newest open world title. As a fan of the sci-fi genre, Jones wants to explore as many planets as possible. Ipsum lipsum, get down to the important part, and really the people are concerned about the lack of any mention of accessibility options in any of the materials so far. And this being 2023 and the prevalence of accessibility options in so many different games, in so many different genres, why have we not heard anything yet about accessibility options being in this game? And then on the kind of funny XCast, when Todd apparently was asked about accessibility options, he mentioned something to the effect that there would be larger font. Well, the problem is this goes beyond just being able to see some of those fonts because they're being up-res for smaller screens. So really the concern boils down to is that we haven't heard anything about accessibility options. Will there be accessibility options? And then, the forum warriors took it to the comments, and then it's like, do we have to make things easy mode? Well, no, that's not what these players are asking for. They don't want the games to be dumbed down or watered down to where they're just simple button mashers or, just simple inputs that allow them to complete the game. They want to have challenges, but they don't want to have challenges based upon their physical limitations. So these are people, they want to be heard, they want to play, they want to be part of the community. They are a part of the community. They've been here forever, and they just want to be recognized, and they want games to be able to designed for their enjoyment as well. And there's a lot of other developers out there that are doing great things and making big strides with accessibility options. So I have no doubt if Bethesda would have put in the effort that they would be able to do it. But again, let's not jump to any conclusions hastily. There could be options there, or they could have options integrated between now and release. They got, 2 months, a little under 2 months at this point. So they've got some time. Yes, it does take longer than 6 weeks to ideate and get put in, but I'm sure somebody's already working on it. But yes, it's a good article. It raises awareness about some of the concerns in the community around gaming and the lack of accessibility options for certain players. And that's over at IGN.com. This one's a little funny for you, is that pre-orders items range from the expensive to the insane. So I have not actually seen this, right? I've looked and I haven't been able to find it, but this has been reported by multiple sites like Game Rant and a few other ones that Starfield gets a bizarre new pre-order bonus. And that is, and so Cheap Ass Gamers put out a tweet on this. If you pre-order Starfield via Best Buy, you will also get a freeze-dried ice cream. And I was like, no way, right? It's got to be a joke. That is not according to their social medias. Went to the website though. Best Buy have not been able to find anything in regards to Starfield getting pre-order bonuses that include freeze-dried ice cream for astronauts. So let's go ahead and just maybe knock that one off the list. Additionally, it was announced last week that Xbox and Bethesda are going to Gamescom. Now, I don't know about you, but this is exciting news, and it's got a really interesting timeline. It's the end of August, which puts it right before the release of the game, or access to the game if you have, pre-ordered it, or, if you have early access, whether you've got it through Game Pass or you pre-ordered the game, you'll have access to it on September 1st. So pretty much the last week of August is Gamescom. Will people actually be able to play the game? And I'm not too sure. I don't think people get an accurate feel for the game within the first hour that they were to play it, or in any type of vertical slice. And that's something that I've heard, secondhand from Todd, that they're not sure that this translates well to like a demo. So if you were to go on the floor and try to play this, one, it would just take a lot longer than you wanted to. Lines would be crazy. So will players be able to play Starfield on the show floor? And I honestly don't know. I don't think that they're going to be able to, but I could be wrong. We will have to wait and see. But I'm also interested to see what we will find on the floor there. And I gotta think that you're going to see like the latest Forza, especially with the popularity of racing sims in Europe, much more so than the States. I think you're going to see Forza there. I think you're going to see a lot of promotional stuff around, obviously, Starfield, but I don't know that you're going to really have people playing it on the star floor. I don't think you're going to have people playing Starfield on the show floor. All right, so here's a kind of hypothetical to kick around, right? So we know that, and a lot of this came out, I shouldn't even say it, like the recent court case involving the FTC and Xbox kind of reaffirmed that one of the reasons Microsoft made the purchase of Activision Blizzard King was to make a play for mobile, right? So I don't want to say cloud because Microsoft kind of admit that they're not doing as well in the cloud space as they had hoped. They are making a play for mobile. So if we check out the ESRB's mentions of Starfield, I'm going to read you what the ESRB has listed for Starfield, straight from their website. This is an open world role-playing game in which players assume the role of a miner tasked with finding artifacts across the galaxy. From first, third-person perspectives, players interact with various characters, complete quests, and search for supplies while battling enemies, e.g. humans, robots, alien creatures. Players use futuristic guns, lasers, axes, and explosives to kill enemies. Combat is fast-paced with frequent gunfire, cries of pain, and explosions. Attacks on some enemies can result in blood splatter effects. Several environments depict bloodstains on the ground around corpses. The game contains some suggestive material in the dialogue, and after sharing a bed with characters, life is a sexually transmitted disease that's 100% fatal. I'm all for getting a little wild, but next time let's try it without the jetpacks. Talk about seeing stars. Whew, that was amazing. A fictional drug, Aurora, is prominent in the game, with a section involving player characters working in an illicit drug lab. Players can also obtain Aurora by stealing or buying it from vendors. Consuming Aurora results in a distortion effect on the screen. The words fuck and bullshit appear in the game. Platforms: Windows PC, Xbox Series. Blood, strong language, suggestive themes, use of drugs, violence. In-game purchases: PC, Xbox Series. So, of note is that we're going to have in-game purchases, which really shouldn't be a big surprise, right? But this also allows them to sell things in a store, which is predominantly how you would monetize a game that was mobile first. And by no means, obviously, a Starfield mobile first. I think a situation arises in the future where we could see Starfield playable on xCloud, right? If not right away, but they have some things really kind of, I don't want to say optimized for mobile, but mobile is a massive market with tons of money. And I know a lot of us in the core gamer space who don't necessarily pay a lot of attention to mobile may not realize just how much activity is going on over there and how much money there is to be had. So they can't make these massive AAA productions that have hundreds of millions of dollars for budgets and not try to optimize their revenue streams. So do we see a way in the future that this is a game with like battle passes? This is a game that has additional, it's going to have microtransactions. I'm sure they're going to be selling cosmetics. They're going to sell quest lines. But do they make this game to where it is mobile friendly, where there are things like you can pick up your phone, maybe not even just do a cloud. Maybe there's an app on your phone that allows you to connect to your character, and there's something that you can do while you're away from the game that takes a few minutes. Maybe you go to a different planet, mine a little bit of iron, do a quest or something, and put your phone down. And then when you come back home, you can sit down at your PC or your console and then take part in the major quests, the bigger, the meal type options, as opposed to those little snacks that you'd get out on the road. So anyways, I think that there is a potential in the future that we could see them put a focus on certain things in this game to not be mobile first, but to be mobile optimized. Next thing we have is I want to take a look at the leaks that, like I mentioned earlier, I did do a video on this when they first came out. Like I said, I think this was like last Thursday or Friday. So it's been a while, and I wouldn't be surprised if most of you at this point have seen it. However, let's go ahead and make sure that we talk about it. And just, again, for those of you that are listening, I will do my best to describe what it is that we are seeing, so that way this makes sense to you. Okay, so the first thing up that I want to talk about is that we have a screenshot, which is black, and it has potentially what was the player character's name, and in this case, it's Dustin. It says they're level 2. And underneath it, it says the targeting skill increases accuracy and range when firing from the hip, which is, no duh, right? That is the targeting skill. That's what we know as the targeting skill. No surprise there, really. What is kind of like suspect at this is, does this confirm ultra wide? Because the aspect ratio that this screenshot came in is wider than your standard, 16:9. That raises the question. Personally, I think that it's more likely that this picture was cropped to look this way from the top down. They made it look wider than it was, tall. So sorry, the exact aspect of the ultra wide is escaping me at the moment. But again, like I said, I think that this is a doctored image. I don't think this is necessarily a natural image. So I don't put a whole lot of credence into this. I do think that we're going to have ultra wide support, whether it's native from the studio or whether it comes from the modding community remains to be seen. But I do believe firmly that ultra wide support will be in the game. I just don't know that that's what this screenshot showing us. Again, I think that this is something that somebody put together and threw up there, and just to get people excited for that. Okay, the next screenshot we have here, and again, I apologize, these are really not the best quality screenshots, right? So these kind of made their way around Discords. They eventually got posted up on Reddit. So what we can see on the screen in the top center is that we have an arrow, and next to it says fast travel directly from the missions menu, press tab. So this confirms that fast travel is in the game. And we already suspected that it probably would be because most Bethesda games do have fast travel in the game itself, right? But what we can see from this is that it should be that we can select the mission in the menu and then fast travel directly to the location that we want to go and not have to necessarily find the icon on the map or do some of these other things. We can actually initiate the fast travel from there. All right, so this is I believe it's a UC security guard. Yeah, it says UC security on the character that we killed. We were awarded 20 experience points for taking them down. We're able to loot a 7.7 millimeter caseless round, and there is a Grindel, is what that says. So we're able to loot those two things, but it also looks like we already looted something. And this something appears to be a piece of armor. So, right, it's not a weapon. This is something that gives us defense. We have physical defense. We have energy and EM. And then it looks like we have protection against certain hazards. Thermal, corrosive, airborne, radioactive. Let me go ahead and shut that off. So we can also see this has a mass of 2.2 units, a value of 953, and it's an O2 filter. So this reduces oxygen consumption by 25%. Now, I don't know if this is going to play out to where O2 filters are like a trinket or something else, or if this is like going to be a real armor slot on your paper doll. But what I do know is that this is not a weapon. This, in my opinion, would be classified as armor, and it really should put to bed the debate that I've seen on some of the forums and Reddit about whether or not we're going to be able to loot armor from enemies that, you know, we kill. So, because that's looks like what we're doing here. Again, it may not be like, oh, that's the entire suit. Okay, I kind of understand that, but it is some kind of item that is an armor item that we're looted. So there we go. And that's over on the right hand side by where we're looting this UC security. In the bottom right, we can see the silhouette of what looks like an automatic rifle. And so this is either an AK-47 or an AK-74. For those of you that aren't kind of into rifles, an AK-74 is a little bit smaller. It fires a smaller caliber round. People were commenting on how this looks smaller than an AK-47. Well, if it looks smaller than an AK-47, that is potentially because it is an AK-74. Unless this is an AK-47 and it does have the rifle stock removed from it, so it looks more like an automatic pistol. But you know, it doesn't have a front pistol grip. There's a lot of things wrong. If I was this guy 300 years from now, I'd be doing some things different with this weapon. Regardless, this is a tried and true thing that they've been using for a super long time, and I guess that it made it to 23 something, right? 2330. They're still using AKs. There were some funny things about some articles like, oh, look at this weird weapon that's in the leak, you know, weapon confirmed. This weapon's not part of the leak, by the way. This weapon, it was plain as day in like the directs and some other videos. This is not a new, but yes, we're using an AK-47 or an AK-74. Something to point out though, we are on Jemison. This is the planet that is home to New Atlantis. We're going to spend probably a lot of time here. We do look like we have an indicator in the bottom left corner of the screen by our watch display that would indicate a mission. So there's a little blue icon down there on the outside radial of the map. There is the icon for New Atlantis, which appears to be behind us. And there's a couple more icons up to... I don't know if this is locked to the north. I don't think it is. So I want to say that is to the south, the southeast of us, effectively at our 2 o'clock. Regardless, there's some enemies up there too. So there's some things going on here on the screen. We did get some confirmation on things that we suspected, shine light on other things that were in question. So it was a good leak. This is probably legitimate. Kind of casting doubt on myself on that rare item, but I do think overall this is legit. I do think the previous screenshot, though, however, was played with. I think somebody messed with it to try and get some hype out there. There's also been a couple other leaks, apparently. I saw one in 4chan. Basically, people pretending to be testers or people who were legitimately testers, which there's some pretty reputable testing services that are doing mock reviews and things like that for Microsoft. So, but I would hope it's not them, and I wouldn't think it would be. But there are people that have builds of this game out there on the PC. But anyways, basically the people in like 4chan and things like that are trying to send out information like, oh, I got these leaks, and they're just telling us things that we probably already knew, things that were already suspected and not even really worth reporting on. It's like, oh, here's a quest structure. It's like, oh, great. Surprise, surprise. There's quests. Go fetch 3 things. I don't really consider that much of a leak, but thank you anyways. So, right. So there we have it. The news of the week. Plus, could we potentially see Starfield go mobile? Should we see Starfield go mobile? Let me know what you think about that. I'm really interested to find out, those of you, what you would think about the potential to, pick up and play, do some things, maybe not things that are really part of the game. Something like, I don't know, we've seen Blizzard do this previously, Activision with World of Warcraft, try to put some little mini functions that you could do on an app that would translate over into your game. And we talked about the leak. Remember that you can always reach me at starfieldpulse@gmail.com with any questions or comments. We record every Monday at 8 p.m. Central U.S. time, except last Monday because of the holiday. But I'll be doing this every Monday up until the launch of the game. For those of you that come and watch us live, thanks for hanging out with me for the little bit that we do to record this. And for those of you listening on your commute, on your jog, on your workout, or on your whatever, I appreciate you listening too. If you do enjoy the show, make sure to leave a comment and a review, because it really helps other people find it on the podcasting services. And if you're watching this later on YouTube, make sure to hit like and leave a comment. I really appreciate that. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe. I'm Rob. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. We also go live on Thursday, by the way, on a non-podcast where we just sit and talk about the news with chat and have a good time and maybe play a game and see what's going on. I'm Rob. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.